Tim McGraw and Faith Hill have been a picture of love for a long time. From hit duets to having a beautiful family, it looked like they would never be apart. Fans are now asking, is something heartbreaking tearing them apart? What's really going on behind closed doors? Stay with us as we take a look at the truth behind the headlines and talk about the pain, the hope, and the unbreakable bond that keeps Tim McGraw and Faith Hill together, even when terrible things happen. Tim and Faith have been more than just singing stars for more than 20 years. In beautiful duets, their voices have told stories of love, desire, and unwavering loyalty. Offstage, their marriage has stood the test of fame. They have 3 girls and a love that seems uncommon in the flashy world of show business. Now, though, rumors of a sad turn in their journey have fans holding their breath. But where did it all start? Was their relationship always as perfect as it seemed, or was there trouble going on behind the scenes? Let's go back to the beginning. It all starts with a kiss. But Tim McGraw and Faith Hill's story began a long time before the big lights and packed stadiums. Even though their paths could not have been more different, fate brought them together. And when you think about where they came from, it's clear how those early years shaped them as people and as a couple. He was born on May 1, 1967, in Deli, Louisiana, a small town where things were not very exciting. After he was born, his mother, Betty D'Agostino, raised him by herself after she and his father broke up. Tim grew up in a simple, working-class home where his family had a hard time making ends meet. His mom worked very hard to take care of him, and they often didn't have the best living situations. Tim didn't know who his real father was for a lot of his youth. As a child, he thought that his husband, Horace Smith, was his real father. But when he was 11, he found his birth certificate and found that his real father was the great Major League Baseball pitcher Tug McGraw. What a surprise! The fact that Tug didn't want to be close to him at first hurt him. Tim didn't let it break him, though. He put all of his heart into singing instead. While listening to country stars like George Strait and Merle Haggard, he learned himself how to play the guitar. It helped him get away from the small place where he grew up and dream of bigger things. Even though he got along with his dad later on, it was the hard times in his early years that made Tim McGraw the tough and passionate person he is today. Tim went to Star, Louisiana's Nelson High School. He wasn't a star athlete or class president there. He was just a normal kid trying to make his way in the world. He didn't really start to think about a future in singing until he was in college at Northeast Louisiana University, which is now the University of Louisiana at Monroe. He joined the school band there and started playing in clubs around town. A little girl called Audrey Faith Perry was having a very different life on the other side of the tracks, in Ridgeland, Mississippi, which is about 300 miles away. Faith was adopted by Ed and Teddy Perry when she was only 2 weeks old. She was born on September 21, 1967. The Perry family was very religious, and Faith grew up in a strict home that stressed faith, obedience, and hard work. Faith has always been good at singing, even when she was very young. Because she sang in the church choir a lot, that's where her love of music grew. She didn't want to just sing at church, though. She had big plans for her life outside of Ridgeland. Faith had big plans for herself that went all the way to the Mississippi line. Faith attended McLaurin High School as a child. She did well in school and became famous for how well she could sing, but what really made her stand out was her love of country music. Faith liked the songs of Patsy Cline, Loretta Lynn, and Emmylou Harris, and their sounds made her want to become a country music singer. When she was a teen, she couldn't ignore those thoughts any longer. Faith was the type of kid who thought you had to go after what you wanted, no matter what. In fact, she did just that. She left her quiet hometown at age 19, packed her bags, and drove to Nashville to find a future that seemed a million miles away. The crazy part is that Tim and Faith's early lives couldn't have been more different. but they both had a strong desire for more. They both knew what it was like to feel like they didn't belong and to want more from life than what they were given. That's why when they finally met, it felt like fate, for the simple reason that the most memorable love stories begin in the strangest places. This was just the beginning for Tim McGraw and Faith Hill. They had a much bigger story to tell. But how did these two dreamers meet? Let's go back and find out. Their first meeting wasn't some big movie-like event. In fact, it was pretty everyday. It took place in 1994 at an event in Nashville. At the time, both were becoming well known in the country music world. Tim was already getting noticed for how successful he was becoming, and Faith was also making a name for herself by working her way up. They quickly met and said nice things to each other, but it wasn't love at first sight yet. Someone once said, "Time is everything." That was so very true for them. Their jobs were going well and their lives were full, but something was still missing. They had no idea that the beginning of their love story was just around the corner. It all started when Tim asked Faith to open for him on his Spontaneous Combustion tour in 1996. That's when things really got hot. During this time, Faith was already engaged to music artist Scott Hendricks. But as the tour went on and Tim and Faith spent more time together, something changed. There was an obvious spark between them that they couldn't ignore. They quickly became more deeply in love with each other. Faith couldn't hide the fact that she was seeing Tim, even though she was in a serious relationship with Scott. It got harder to ignore them the more they toured together. There was love in the air, and it was stronger than either of them thought. At some point, Faith made the very hard choice to end her engagement to Scott. It was hard to decide, but she knew Tim McGraw was the one she wanted to be with. By October 6, 1996, Tim and Faith were really in love with each other and couldn't wait to get married. As you might expect from two up-and-coming country stars, they didn't have a big public wedding. Instead, they chose something much more private. In Rayville, Louisiana, they got married in secret with only close family and friends present. They weren't used to being in the spotlight, so it was a quiet, private event. Everyone wasn't aware of it yet, but one of the most famous and loved power pairs in country music was about to be born. That was the start of a love story that would captivate millions of people and last for generations. But how did their relationship last through the stress of being in the public eye, personal problems, and turns they didn't expect? Let's find out more. We've seen how Tim and Faith met and fell in love. Now let's talk about something even more important, their family. The love they have for each other and their children has always been at the heart of their marriage. But how do you raise a family while also having a very good career? It was clear to Tim and Faith that they didn't just want to be country music stars when they had kids. They wanted to build a home, a life, and a heritage. And so, the next part of their trip started when they gave birth to their first child, Gracie. Gracie McGraw was their first child. She was born on May 5, 1997, and like all first children, she made a big difference in Tim and Faith's lives. They always made sure that her childhood was as normal as possible, even though she knew that her parents were famous adults. Gracie's parents took her on trips with them when she was young, but she tried to stay out of the public eye as much as possible. Even though she comes from a popular family, Tim and Faith did their best to make sure she had a normal life like other kids her age. It wasn't long before she became interested in singing. The next one was Maggie McGraw, who was born on August 12, 1998. Gracie liked being on stage, but Maggie was more interested in working to protect the earth. The topic of environmental action is very important to her, and she spends a lot of time on it. That's very clear. Maggie cares about more than just herself. Last but not least, Tim and Faith's third daughter, Audrey McGraw, was born on December 6, 2001. Audrey has shown interest in modeling and acting, and she is so pretty and charming that it looks like she will have a bright future in the press. This is where things get tricky. It's not easy to raise kids while being famous. It would have been easy for Tim and Faith to get caught up in the rush of fame with all the awards, shows, and media attention, but they were determined to keep their family life as normal as possible. Tim and Faith both made a conscious choice to put their family ahead of their jobs. When asked about how they made it all work, they often said that simple communication and a shared commitment to their children were the keys. Their private lives were kept secret because they didn't want their girls to grow up too much in the public eye. Not for the cameras. They didn't show off their kids. Instead, they made time for home-cooked meals, trips, and other easy activities that helped their girls feel grounded. Could you picture being a huge star and trying to enjoy every moment with your family? It's not simple, but Tim and Faith made it look like it was. Their family-first attitude may be one reason why they've been together for so long. They've always put their loved ones first, no matter what. From what we've seen so far, Tim and Faith's love story seemed like it came from a fairy tale. Two stars meet and start a beautiful family. But even the most perfect lives have flaws. For Tim and Faith, the flaws started to show in ways that shocked their fans. Tim McGraw's life started going in a direction that no one saw coming in the late 2000s and early 2010s. He hid the fact that he was addicted from the public for years, even when he was at the height of his fame. Tim was having a hard time behind the scenes. It was said that he was strong, sure of himself, and cared about his family, but his fame couldn't free him from his addiction. Faith Hill finally lost it when Tim's behavior got worse and his relationships with his family and friends got worse. It is said that she gave him an ultimatum: get clean or lose everything, even his family. What a wake-up call. Tim made the choice to change things in 2013. He stopped drinking, and he says Faith saved his life. Think about how much love it took for her to be there for him when he needed her the most. But just as things were getting better, another storm came through in 2013. There were rumors that she was cheating on her husband. People thought that Tim had gotten too close to some of his female fans, and rumors of trouble in paradise began to spread. Let's be honest, stories are hard to avoid when you live in the public eye, but Faith wouldn't have it. She denied the reports in public, saying that their marriage was better than ever. But here's the question. How do you keep going when everyone is trying to bring you down? Do you think Faith had a reason to be worried, or do you think these people were just trying to hurt them? Then, in 2015, there were more reports going around, but this time it was about how Faith looked. Some reports said she had plastic surgery to make her look better because of how she was changing. Isn't it crazy? There was no way for people to believe that Faith was not doing something to look younger or better as she aged. But Faith wasn't going to stand for that. She replied with class, putting an end to the reports and saying that her good looks were just a result of living a healthy life and aging gracefully. This was just another lesson that getting older doesn't mean changing who you are. Faith has always been open about her health goals. Do you think they're under too much stress to stay young forever? Tim was playing on stage in 2014 when a female fan grabbed him during the show. This became a famous event. Tim made the quick choice to slap the fan's hand away right away. Backlash broke out on the internet. Some of his fans thought it was rude, while others said it was a self-defense move and supported him. Faith didn't think twice about defending Tim, telling everyone that he did what he did because someone was invading his personal space. Still, there was a lot of talk about the issue. What would you do? Would you stand by your partner no matter what? Or would the backlash from other people make you question your decision? That was the end of the reports and scandals for the McGraws. Now they were about to face something much more personal that would test their strength in a way that no public scandal ever could. This time, it was their health. It's one thing to fight the public eye, but it's a whole other thing when your body starts to lie to you. When Faith Hill had problems with her voice cords in 2017, no one saw it coming. She had to cancel several shows on their Soul to Soul tour. This was a terrible blow for a singer like Faith, whose singing was her life. Could she still sing? Could she ever sing as well as she used to? The problem was fixed with surgery, but worries about her future in singing only got worse. Can you picture how stressed she must have been? That wasn't just about taking some time off. She was afraid she would lose the chance to do the things she loved most. Do you think it's hard for someone who loves their job to have to quit all of a sudden because of their health? People were scared. Would she come back? Faith had to fight through that hard part of the story. Even though she came back better, what she went through would stay with her. In 2018, just 1 year later, the McGraw family had another scary health scare. Tim McGraw passed out on stage during a show in Ireland because he wasn't drinking enough water. He looked like he was sick, and when he passed out in front of thousands of fans, it shocked everyone there and around the world. Faith was there, though. She ran to help him. The crowd quieted down, and when Tim woke up, everyone let out a sigh of relief. Still, the event shocked both Faith and her fans. It wasn't just about one bad show. It was about Tim's health, his life, and what the future held. In 2023 and 2024, rumors started to spread that Faith Hill was dealing with a disease that was getting worse over time. This news broke the hearts of a family that has already been through a lot. Since Faith had always been so healthy and full of life, she stopped going out in public as much. It is said that Tim cut back on his work obligations to be with her. Can you picture how heavy that is? Faith's absence from the public eye made people think more about what was going on. Some people thought she might have pulled back because she was sick, while others thought the worst. But what no one saw coming was how these health problems would affect other people. Fans thought Tim and Faith's love would last forever, for years. But you can test even the best ties. Could this be the time when everything changes? Fans did not see Tim McGraw make such a heartbreaking choice. In 2024, he said he was going to take a break from his singing duties. Why? To be with Faith. It wasn't easy for the man who ruled the country music charts for decades to leave, but you put everything else aside when someone you love needs you. It was very clear to Tim what was most important: Faith and their 3 girls. Nothing was more important to him than spending time with the people who meant the most to him, not a sold-out show or an award. While everyone else talked about what they thought, Tim calmly focused on what was important: being there. But if you thought that was sad, wait until you see this, because no one will ever forget his last show in 2025. Things were already very emotional that night, but when Tim spoke in honor of Faith, you could have heard a pin drop. With tears in his eyes, he gave her the song "It's Your Love," which sums up the magic of their early relationship. Fans were so moved by his performance that they couldn't hold back tears. It wasn't just a show. It was a love letter and a public promise that he wouldn't leave, no matter how bad things got. Can you picture that time? It was crowded, but his heart only belonged to one person. But life wasn't so wonderful when no one was around. Concerns about Faith's health kept getting worse, and Tim had to balance his work life with being a rock for his family. There were rumors that Tim was getting ready for the worst possible thing, saying goodbye to his loved ones. One question still stands: will Tim McGraw and Faith Hill share the stage again? They've been through a lot together, from happy times to sad times. Fans really want things to go well. In the past, these two have been known to surprise us when we least expect it. Could there be one last song that everyone will remember? A goodbye show that makes us remember why we loved their love story in the first place? Could it be that their time in the sun together is over? There have been rumors that they might go public, but neither Tim nor Faith have revealed anything, and the quiet is stronger than any words. Some people think they're just keeping their privacy during a tough time, while others are afraid Faith's health might make it hard for her to come back. The world is waiting for one last look at the couple who made us believe in forever, no matter what. Is this the end of their story, or will love win in the end? One thing is certain about Tim and Faith: it's never over until it's over.